The impact wasn't loud, but it echoed through the hangar like thunder. A sharp, sickening thud, then silence. The wrench slipped from his hand and clattered onto the concrete floor. For a second, everything froze. The humming of the engines, the metallic clang of tools, the low murmur of soldiers, all of it died as every pair of eyes turned toward the young mechanic lying motionless on the ground. Blood streaked down her temple, glistening under the harsh fluorescent lights. And in that moment, Sergeant Blake realized he'd just made the worst mistake of his life. He hadn't meant to hit her, not really. It was supposed to be a warning swing, a moment of frustration that spiraled out of control. The heat of the day, the broken F-35 turbine, the endless pressure from command, all of it had boiled over. But what no one knew, what he didn't know, was who she really was. The girl, barely 24, wasn't just another mechanic fresh out of training. Her name was Lieutenant Kara Hale, an aerospace engineer assigned under a classified directive. The youngest officer ever cleared for Project Valkyrie, a project that didn't officially exist. Until that day, as medics rushed forward and soldiers shouted orders, Blake stumbled back, trembling. His knuckles stung, his heart raced, and his brain screamed that he hadn't meant to do it. But intent didn't matter anymore. Within minutes, the sound of helicopters filled the air. Black Hawks, not the usual patrols, 3 of them, flying low, fast, and furious. When they touched down, the insignia on their doors sent ripples through the entire base, 3 silver stars, carved into black paint. Generals. Not colonels. Not admirals. Generals. Every officer snapped to attention. The atmosphere turned electric, suffocating. Nobody dared to breathe wrong. The lead general, an older man with cold eyes and a rigid jaw, walked straight past the line of saluting soldiers. He didn't look left or right. He only looked at the girl on the stretcher, unconscious, pale, with dried blood on her cheek. "Shut it down," he ordered quietly. Those 3 words carried more weight than an explosion. Within minutes, alarms began to blare. Communications went dark, every terminal was disconnected, every flight was grounded, every door sealed. Project Valkyrie was over, or rather, it had just become something far beyond the reach of the men who worked there. Blake was dragged into a holding room, still shaking. The walls were bare, the lights too bright. He could hear his pulse in his ears. Over and over, he whispered to himself that it was an accident. But no one came to listen. Outside, the base was being emptied, files burned, devices confiscated, hard drives destroyed. It was as if the whole place had been a ghost all along, and now it was being erased from history. Hours passed. Then, without warning, the door opened. The same general walked in, holding a small metal folder. He set it on the table and stared at Blake. The silence between them was unbearable. Finally, the general spoke, his voice calm but heavy with disappointment. "Do you know who she is?" Blake shook his head weakly. The general leaned forward. "You hit the daughter of General Marcus Hale, one of the architects of this nation's most advanced weapons programs. She wasn't here by chance. She was here because she designed the prototype you were fixing." He paused. "She's not just another engineer, Sergeant. She's the reason this base exists." The words landed like a hammer. Blake's chest caved in. He wanted to scream, to explain, to beg. But what could he say? That it was an accident. That he didn't know. None of it mattered now. The damage was done. That night, as the base lights went out one section at a time, Blake sat in his cell, staring through the narrow slit of the window. Outside, the moonlight cast a silver glow over the hangar where it had all happened. He could still see her there, her short brown hair sticking to her face, her hands stained with grease, her eyes fierce but kind. She had been the type who worked without complaint, who stayed late to help others, who smiled even when everyone else was cursing the workload. He remembered, painfully, the day she fixed his engine when he couldn't. She had laughed, softly, and said, "Machines break. People do too. What matters is how fast we fix ourselves." Now, those words haunted him like a ghost. Weeks passed. The investigation grew larger than anyone expected. Military police, intelligence officers, even the Pentagon, all involved. But what shocked everyone wasn't the fight or the shutdown, it was what happened after. Kara survived. Barely. She woke up after 12 days in a coma, disoriented but alive. Her first question wasn't about her injury. It was about the project. "Did they destroy the prototype?" she asked. When the doctor nodded, she smiled faintly. "Good." Rumor had it that the prototype was no ordinary aircraft. It was a hybrid stealth system capable of autonomous flight and adaptive camouflage, a potential game changer in modern warfare. But she'd seen what it could do, the risk it posed if misused. And when she realized it was about to be deployed prematurely, she had secretly been working to disable it. That was the real reason she was in the hangar that day, trying to dismantle something too powerful for anyone to control. When word of that reached the generals, everything changed. Suddenly, Kara wasn't just an engineer or an officer, she was a protector, a whistleblower wrapped in silence. And Blake, he became the man who had nearly killed the one person who tried to save them all. He was released under quiet orders, stripped of his rank, sent to a remote outpost in Alaska. Cold, forgotten. There, surrounded by snow and silence, he lived with the weight of what he had done. Every day, he wrote letters to her, letters he never sent. Apologies that would never be read. Then, one day, a helicopter landed outside his post. A woman stepped out, wearing a thick coat and a single silver pin, the mark of an officer. Her hair had grown longer, her scar faint under the pale light. It was Kara. She didn't say a word at first. She just stood there, looking at him with those same fierce, kind eyes. And in that quiet, he broke. He fell to his knees, tears freezing on his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't." She shook her head gently. "I know," she said softly. "And that's why I came." She handed him a sealed folder. Inside was a reinstatement order. "A second chance. Project Valkyrie is gone," she said. "But we're starting something new, something meant to protect, not destroy. I can't do it alone." That day, something inside him shifted. Guilt turned into purpose. Pain became redemption. Together, they built a small division focused on rescue operations, the same technology reworked to save lives instead of ending them. And as time passed, people stopped whispering about the incident. They spoke instead of the miracle that came after, the unlikely partnership that turned tragedy into legacy. Years later, at a military memorial, Blake stood beside her as they unveiled a plaque dedicated to Project Phoenix, born from the ashes of Valkyrie. The crowd applauded, unaware of the full story. Only the two of them knew the truth, that sometimes the worst mistakes become the turning points that redefine who we are. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that redemption is possible even in the darkest moments, please take a second to support this video. Your one click helps us share more stories that speak to the human spirit. Speech balloon special request. Tell us in the comments what forgiveness means to you. Your words might help someone who's fighting their own silent battle right now. And as the wind carried the sound of distant applause, Kara looked up at the sky, calm, endless, and free, and whispered, "Machines break. People do too. But we can rebuild."